Should people care about evidence? Of course. Do the religious? Not remotely. They're quick to criticize that fact in others, but absolutely never in themselves because they don't care, and we're going to see a lot of that coming up. They prove just how unreasonable and irrational their beliefs are if we just let them talk. So let's go ahead and do that and listen in and see. Back again with Caved Across Apologetics, the, I don't know, podcast, whatever it is, where two theists talk about whatever they want to talk about and often reveal more problems with their own theology than anything else. We started off about a week ago with a talk about evidence and postmodernism, and I think it gets really bad this time out. So we'll just skip all the prologue and get right to the action already in progress.
So yes, rationalism, the rationalistic ideal does deserve criticism, as the postmodernists suggest, right? Because people cannot find out the truth about God or any other ultimate issue in life through human reasoning and investigation alone.
That's your claim, because here's the thing that very few people want to acknowledge. Maybe there are no ultimate answers. Maybe all of the claims that you're making are just bogus. Maybe there's no ultimate meaning to life at all. We're just here because we evolved here, and when we die, we die. That's certainly what all the evidence that we have suggests is true, and your feelings don't matter. But suggest that to the religious, to a lot of people really, and they'll just freak out. They can't even consider the possibility that they are not special. Why? Because they're looking for emotional comfort, not truth, not fact. If the facts are uncomfortable, they'll just make up something different because they can't handle the actual facts. That's the sad part. They can't handle it because they're not mature enough to handle it. This is a very common part of the human experience, but that doesn't make it rational. I know I'm going to die someday. I have no reason whatsoever to think that anything else will happen after my brain flatlines. I'll be gone. I'll be dead. That'll be it. Nothing else is going to matter. That's going to be that, and I'm fine with it. It doesn't bother me one bit. Why? Because I embrace the reality that I'm actually in. And it wouldn't matter if it bothered me, because it's going to happen regardless. I have no control, and neither do you. So what's the point of being terrified of reality if it's going to happen anyhow? Learn to deal with it. Honestly, ask yourself that question and come up with a rational answer. Good luck.
And so the postmodernists, if that's the case, which seems to be the case, and that's what the evidentialists hold to, then postmodernists is left with no way at all to attain ultimate truth.
Once again, I hate postmodernism. I am an evidentialist in the sense that I expect objective evidence for any claim made about reality, but postmodernism, yeah, it can just go fuck itself. Because postmodernism is, in and of itself, completely irrational. It looks at the world through relative eyes, and I would assume, if you're going to apply that to science, to be anti-evidence, or at least anti-objective evidence, so I really don't know what this guy is on about. Now, if any postmodernists in the comments want to go and explain things, that's entirely welcome. Please feel free, go ahead. I want to understand, but at the moment, these are just terms being thrown around without any context or meaning, and as such, it's just kind of pointless.
Now, that's not true for the Christians. So you can make the criticism of, evidentialist kind of ideas that postmodernists make of, the modernist ideal of rationalism. You can make that criticism, but if you're a postmodernist, you have nowhere to go now to find ultimate truth, right?
You are still assuming that ultimate truth exists. This is a problem that I've run into with the religious. And it's not just religion, I suppose. So let's just include the quasi-religious, groups that also rely on faith and fifis to make determinations rather than facts and evidence. But these people construct models of the world in their heads that are simply not defensible on the outside. Now, for the religious, that would include things like the existence of the supernatural, say, just to give a quick example. They firmly believe that it exists, but outside of their heads, they can present no reason whatsoever to take it seriously at all. It's just a concept, something they invented whole cloth because it gets them where they want to go emotionally. We could also mention other ideologies where that's true, but we're trying to stick with religion here, so I'm trying not to stray too much. But a lot of people have this problem. They want this stuff to be true, so they just insist that it's true, but they can't show how they actually got there in any rational, evidence-based, intellectual way. And if you can't do that, then it doesn't make any of it true, does it?
For the Christian, though, on the other hand, the failure of modernism, this rationalistic ideal, leaves us with revelation. And so that's our way of discovering the ultimate truth about God and the world.
Except you can't show that you've ever had that. Just this morning, I saw a segment on Atheist Experience with Elliot and Armin, where a former atheist called in, and he had this experience, and he just couldn't explain it, therefore, God done it. It was one of the most perfect examples of, I don't get it, therefore God, that I've ever seen. This guy just kept trying to explain his experience and was just asserting all kinds of things about it, but he couldn't show how he knew any of it. How do you know it was God? No answer, but it just had to be because that's what he now believes. This is why I completely reject anyone who says, well, it's true from a Christian perspective, because I don't care about your perspective. I care about your evidence. If you are not working to verify these things that are in your head and prove that they are coherent in the real world, then you are an idiot. You and I are not on the same intellectual plane. And that's not ego speaking, that's just an acknowledgement that you have not done your rational due diligence to come to those conclusions in the first place. Just because you believe it, just because you want it to be true, just because it makes you feel really good inside, that doesn't make it true. And saying, from a Christian perspective, that doesn't prove that the Christian perspective is worthwhile to begin with. You have to justify your base preconceptions first. And these people aren't even trying because they don't care. They just really want to believe.
So the postmodernist has no way of discovering ultimate truth if indeed their criticism of rationalism is true. The Christian can accept at least some of that criticism of rationalism, but yet we do have a way of discovering the truth. It's through the revelation that God has given us.
Right.
But you don't. You're just asserting that you do. Now, I'm going to get a little esoteric here, but J.Z. Knight, a woman who lives in Washington State, is a psychic kook. She believes that she receives information from a 35,000-year-old mystic named Rantha. Hundreds of people have just picked up their lives and moved to the Pacific Northwest to hear her teachings. Now, she is a con man. There's tons of former followers that have purported that she stole everything from them, and setting all that aside for the moment, assuming that she actually believes everything that she's saying, couldn't she just assert that she had a personal revelation from a magical spirit, and therefore she has every bit as much right to claim to have ultimate knowledge as the Christians on screen do? So why should we take them seriously and not somebody like Knight or any of the other psychic wingnuts that pop up all over the place? Why are their claims believable and the claims of your friendly neighborhood psychic lunatic not? If this was real, they'd have to have evidence to back it up. But they don't. They just really want to believe that it's true. It's really why they don't want to talk to us. because they could never withstand the barrage of criticism, and that's kind of a problem if you think about it.
So postmodernism, do better. Come up with the critique of revelation. There you go.
I'm not a postmodernist, but claims of revelation are bullshit. This is just, here's what I want to believe, and I'm hearing voices in my head, and I'm not insane, although you actually are. So what? Where are your critical thinking faculties? Why can't you be critical of your own beliefs like you are of everyone else's? This is why I think it's valuable to look behind the curtain and see the religious saying all the quiet parts out loud. They are saying and doing things that ought to be embarrassing because they can't put their own beliefs to the test that you would expect from anyone else. They just think that their beliefs are special and immune to rational criticism, and they're just wrong. It just shows how hypocritical they are. And this goes for a lot of different beliefs who are doing effectively the same thing. It's why I keep stressing that we have one standard and one standard only, and we need no others. If you can't demonstrate that the fundamental underpinnings of your beliefs are valid, then you have no reason to believe it in the first place. That you do is a problem with you. You are the problem. Knock it off.
Well, moreover, evidentialists like classical apologists stress the indispensability of reason as a means by which we are able to recognize God's revelation.
You haven't even established that your imaginary friend is real yet. This is as ridiculous as claiming Ramtha's revelation. Ramtha is just a made-up thing just like God is. You have no corroboratory evidence to show that it is reasonable or rational to think that any of this is true. This is why we have to stop the religious right up front. Well, how do you know that? Explain without using your faith or your fifis as justification. Of course, they can't do that. These two jokers on screen, they couldn't do it. They just want it to be true, just like the people who follow Night Around do, so they claim, well, it's true. Just like the people who were following David Koresh did. They thought it was true. Just like the Heaven's Gate cultists did. They thought it was true. Look what that got them. There is absolutely no difference between any of these systems. These are dumb people trying to be dumb because dumb makes them feel good. There is no limit to human stupidity and gullibility. You people ought to be ashamed of yourselves. You really should.
While these apologists would deny that we can discover the truth about God on our own, they do contend that we can discover the truth of God's revelation by applying methods of such established disciplines as law, history, and science to the facts of Christianity.
There are none. Where are these supposed facts? This is just a continual line of assertions made with absolutely no rational justification because they really want it to be true. I think it's really funny how they just can't get out of their own heads. It's like the old joke from Northern Ireland, at least that's how I heard it, where a guy's just walking down the street in Belfast when he's surrounded by a gang. And they ask him, well, are you Protestant or Catholic? And he doesn't know what to say, so he says, I'm an atheist. And the leader of the gang says, yeah, but are you a Protestant atheist or a Catholic atheist? These are people who can't see anything but religion. There are the evidentialists over there and the classical theists over there and the traditionalists over there, but they all just accept that God is a real thing because of faith. They don't even consider the fact that God isn't an established fact at all. They don't ask themselves those questions because they don't want an answer like that. There are some things that just exist because, well, they want them to. But that doesn't mean anything, though. You can't just say, God is real, without demonstrating that God is real. Yet, that's not what they do, right?
So again, bringing it back to the method. In order to make the case, classical apologists directly confront what they regard as the self-defeating, irrational character of postmodernism. That is, they argue that postmodernism is forced to make absolute statements denying absolute truth. So that's the classic of all classic argumentation against postmodernists.
Well, I will agree with you that postmodernism is stupid, depending on how far you take it, and I have seen people who take it ridiculously far, but I don't think these two are taking their discussion nearly far enough. Granted, internal dialogue, we know they don't think anybody outside of their cult is going to be watching, but they're doing it on an open platform where anybody can look in and be critical. Why are so many people utterly clueless on that? I make my videos knowing full well that theists can and may be watching, and I welcome that. I want them to show up. I want them to be intelligent when they do, which is not what we actually get, but I want them to watch because I want them to understand what they're doing wrong, what their icons and their heroes are doing wrong. But like I said, they're not thinking about things that way, are they? I expect them to be critical of what I say because I am critical of what they say. And then we can have a conversation over which side is best defended by the evidence. Sadly for them, it's never them, but I am open to them bringing something interesting to the table. They just never do. And that's why I don't encourage an echo chamber here. Go out and experience other points of view, figure out what others are saying, and whether or not what they're saying is defensible. The religious, sadly, they don't seem to be able to do that, but I guess that's kind of par for the course. Instead of being interested in the truth, they're just looking for confirmation. And I'm sorry, but that's just dumb.
There you go. There's no absolute truth. Oh, is that true? Yeah, that kind of thing, right?
Yes.
That's stupid when Frank Turek does it. First off, there is absolute truth called fact. Facts are demonstrable and testable and verifiable. There are no absolutely true opinions, though, except when those opinions are in alignment with the facts. It is my opinion that the acceleration constant of gravity in a 1g field is 9.8 meters per second squared. At least it's close enough for the current discussion at hand. Is that true? Yes, it is. I mean, it's actually 9.80665, etc. meters per second squared, but like I said, it was close enough. I could also say that my favorite flavor of ice cream is chocolate chip, which isn't really true since I don't have a real favorite. I like lots of things, but I could say that, and if it was true, then it would be true. I'm just reporting my own subjective experience, and my reporting is, in that theoretical case, correct. That would be my favorite flavor, and tomorrow that could change and be a different favorite flavor. I don't know. This is what happens when you're just playing musical definitions, as the religious tend to do, and that doesn't get you anywhere intelligent.
So they're forced to make that kind of statement. So evidentialists endorse the criticism, right? This self-defeating notion of postmodernism that the classical apologists also endorse. But their chief objection to it is that in everyday matters, people do not accept a pluralistic, relativistic view of truth, right?
Depends on how you're actually using the word, and usages do matter. Most of these problems are linguistic, and with having different expectations and usages and things like that. It also doesn't matter what most people think, it matters what is actually true. And that's why I'm very clear on this. I want to know, to the best of my ability, to find out what is actually going on out there in the real world that we all share. I don't care about anything else in this instance. I don't care how the truth makes me feel one bit. In fact, as we speak, I'm having a Reddit discussion on truth and the value of debating theists who clearly don't care about it, and most people are agreeing that what I'm after, I'll never get in any discussion with the religious because they just don't care. That kind of theist that I've been looking for, you know, the one who has a clue and a brain, pretty much forever, those people simply don't exist. I understand that, but I'm not going to stop looking because that's really the only kind of discussion that's worthwhile having. Someone who cares as much about the facts as I do. I mean, fuck your faith, fuck your fifis, care about the facts. And on the religious side, those people just don't exist. That's kind of sad, isn't it?
Right. We don't say, well, you know, the amount of money in my bank account is whatever somebody thinks it might be.
Right, because whatever is in your bank account, that is not beholden to your feelings. It has an objective existence outside of your head. You can actually go and verify it, no faith required. Now, try to do the same thing with your God. How do we show that your God is real, entirely absent your feelings or beliefs on the matter? The answer is, you can't. This is just a claim about objective reality. God either exists or does not exist. God either exists for everyone or does not exist for anyone. How do you demonstrate that this is what's actually true? Because I've been asking for any theist to be able to do that forever, and nobody has any coherent answers. It's either, but I have faith, or but I heard a voice in my head, or but I really want it to be true. None of those are worthwhile answers. None at all. How you feel has absolutely no impact on objective reality. That's not a very good example for what we're talking about here, though, is it? I want the verification. I don't want your incoherent babbling. I don't want your faith. If that's all you can offer, then you've already lost. Give up.
Right? Nobody says that, right?
Unless you're the United States government, yes.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. It's we don't discover it, we kind of create it. We'll try to tell that to the bank, right? I'm going to create the amount of money in my the illustration they use is they say that virtually all people are outraged when neo-Nazi groups, for instance, claim that the Holocaust never happened.
Because we have all the evidence that we need that it did. The same is true of the lunatics who say, we never went to the moon. Then who the hell left the reflectors up there that you can bounce a laser off right now? These people are real idiots. They are not living in actual reality in their heads. But then again, the same is true of these guys. It's why I don't care what you say. I care what you can prove. I don't care about your opinions when it comes to objective reality. I care about your evidence. And sadly for the religious, they have none. I'm not singling the religious out either. This goes for absolutely everyone. If you say that you saw Bigfoot, then I expect you to be able to back it up. Throw a body up on the table for us to examine. If you say that you are abducted by aliens, prove it. I mean, give me a crashed ship. Give me an alien body. I need something that I can study. Because unless I get something I can study, I am not going to believe you. I mean, I'll even go a bit. Give me cell phone pictures or something. Anything. I need something beyond your say-so and, well, it seems to me. Because that's not going to impress anybody with a brain.
So much for the postmodern claim that history is whatever people construct it to be, right? Or your bank account is whatever you construct it to be. Nobody lives like that, right?
Exactly.
Well, except the religious, because they believe things for which they can provide absolutely no objective evidence that it's actually true. They are doing exactly what he said, living as if there is a God, just like somebody else would have to live as if there was $1 trillion in their bank account. But that doesn't make any of it true. But with the God belief, there is no nasty call from the bank telling you that you're overdrawn. There are no immediate real-world consequences for living in the imaginary fantasy world in your head like the religious do. This is where I really wish being stupid was painful. Hopefully, then you wouldn't get so many stupid people, because we've got a lot of really stupid people out there. People need some kind of feedback on their positions, and that's where I think calling these morons out on their stupidity matters. Let's stop coddling these people. You believe irrational things for no good evidence-based reason. Stop being an imbecile. If enough people do this, eventually, I think most of them are going to get embarrassed. Sure, you're going to get the fanatics who will lap it up because they've got a persecution complex, but for the vast majority of people, if everybody around them is telling them that they're an idiot, if they're laughing at them, if they're pointing and making fun of them, then they're going to have to figure it out eventually, because it's going to start impacting their lives. Their lives are going to be ruined otherwise. Nobody's going to respect them. People aren't going to hire them, or at least they shouldn't, for anything other than a door greeter at Walmart. They're either going to have to retreat into their echo chambers and live apart from normal society, which is okay for us because we don't have to deal with them, or they're going to have to take a giant step backwards and figure out what the hell they're doing wrong, which is also great for us because it improves society. So, win-win.
Yeah, even I've heard postmodern philosophers before say, well, yes, I do believe in this kind of postmodern idea of unobjective truth, but when I talk to people, I don't argue like that. Well, okay, then what's your point? If you can't go based off your method, then don't be a status authority person to listen to, and make claims. It's just an odd predicament one finds themselves in there.
That's true, but you're doing the same thing. This is why I keep saying to stick to the one standard that we have that we know works. If I'm making a statement about reality, any statement, it's evidence all the way. If I'm expressing my opinion about something that doesn't address the real world, that's different. But when I talk about reality, I use one and only one standard because that's the only one that we have that produces demonstrable, verifiable results. And whether you like it or not, the existence of a God is a statement about reality. You are asserting that this God thing of yours actually exists and has an impact on the world in which we all live. Therefore, back it up. Do so in a way that others who don't share your beliefs can verify. Get rid of your faith and your fifis, because those are meaningless. Yet they don't want to do that, do they? They can't. The entire belief system collapses if they even try. So this isn't just postmodernism, which I will agree completely is just idiotic, but this is also Christianity. And not just Christianity, but all religions, because they're all doing the same thing wrong, and I find it hilarious to watch two Christians criticize the things that they disagree with, while ignoring it entirely when it comes to their own religious beliefs. That's why watching these behind-the-scenes videos from time to time is so enlightening. It just shows what kind of hypocrites they are.
But it does seem that postmodern seems to be more on the way out, and I hear a little bit less of that, I think, in the world.
And guess what? Christianity's on the way out too, and for the same reason. It just isn't demonstrable. Most people aren't taking it seriously. This is why having standards matters, and why the religious, and a lot of other people too, simply don't. They are after feelings, not fact. And I'm after fact and not feelings. I don't make exceptions. I am only looking for the objective truth to the very best of my ability to determine it. Now, that's not to say that I'm necessarily going to get there. That doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to understand everything. That's the reality we live in. But I'm sure going to try, and at least I'm doing more than the religious are, because they just don't care. I do. In this arena, that's all I care about. I don't know what else to tell you. I think this whole thing is just silly because caring about your fifis and your faith is just childish. But anyhow, what did you think? Go ahead and put your thoughts about postmodernism down below, but I really want to know if you recognized all the hypocrisy as clearly as I did. I've had a couple of different discussions on this recently, mostly without the whole postmodernist thing, but I've had them with theists who really can't handle the truth, and the second that I pointed out that I don't care about their faith, they leave skid marks. They make every excuse in the book to get away because they have nothing else to say, and they can't understand why anybody else would have a problem with my faith or my beliefs or my Christian perspective. Honestly, these people are not bright. I don't know how else to put it. They are not rational. They are not intellectual. They don't care. I do. Sometimes it really feels like I'm the only one, and let's be honest, that's really sad.